Morning, all, and I'm very grateful to say there will be 5 games tomorrow, so there won't be a game at 9 o'clock in the morning tomorrow or on Saturday. We have 5 games tomorrow. So I'm doing tomorrow's preview today because, again, this is how this works. It's the only time I'm going to get. Because as the Florida Islanders game should be finishing up, uh, we then have the Panthers and the Coyotes starting up, and then you get into the round robin games, and it's just there's so much overlap. Even getting all the reviews in can be a difficulty. So there's only 5 games tomorrow, which means tomorrow morning I could do a non-preview or review video, right? I could do the career of Zenith Komarniski. Sure, sure. Nice quick video and get it done, and there you go. All right, so let's start things off. The early game, and this is going to be interesting, is 2:30 p.m. Eastern, so 11:30 Pacific, and that's Vancouver and Minnesota. So coming off of last night's game, which was pretty intense, these guys do not like each other. Tomorrow morning, for me it's tomorrow morning, for everybody else in Canada and basically the globe, it's going to be tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening for those in Europe. Really, in all honesty, Minnesota was the much better team in that third period, and so Vancouver has to be the team they were in the first and most of the second. If Minnesota can basically take advantage of Fiala, this series could be very interesting from here. And of course, Minnesota will have the home ice last change, and for Vancouver, it's a matter of maintaining that momentum. I don't think there should be any lineup changes other than obviously Ferland. I haven't heard whether or not he's necessarily going to play, but if he's not, then I would think Gaudette goes back in, and other than that, things should be pretty standard. Leave it the same. Travis Green's pretty good that way. He doesn't usually make big lineup changes if they're doing well. If they win a game, he doesn't normally make big lineup changes after that, unlike what we saw with Florida this morning. But we'll get into that when I do the review of the Florida game. Man. Quenneville not happy with his team. And honestly, if you're Dean Evison, you have to like what you saw in the third period. You have to like the fight back you saw. And so here we go. We're going to go into game 3 tomorrow, and it should be as entertaining as last night's. Very entertaining series. Very close. Washington and Philadelphia then square off at 4 o'clock Eastern in a round robin game. The Capitals, of course, 0-1, and if they don't win tomorrow, then they can't end up finishing with the number 1 seed. Philadelphia, on the other hand, going into tomorrow, they have a good chance. Really, you got to think they beat Boston, which was the number 1 seed coming into it. Now they got Washington, and then they get Tampa. If they can beat Washington, they're going to end up with one of the top seeds. And Philadelphia, of the teams in the East, I think they looked the most impressive. Now Boston and Tampa are playing later today. And so we'll see if Tampa can beat Boston, push Boston down to likely being the 4th seed, and then, how that turns out, we'll see. Because let's just say it was Boston against, Pittsburgh. If Boston slips to the number 4 seed and ended up against Pittsburgh, that may very well be a tough one. But if Montreal secured the upset, and then it's Carolina, I don't like Boston's chances. Carolina would remember last year. So there are some interesting parts of these round robin games, but if you're not getting into them as much as you're getting into the playing games, it's fine. I don't think the teams are. I don't think the announcers are. I think it's just basically we got to keep these guys warmed up and give them something to play for. Because the other option was to have these guys just face off in scrimmages and just leave the seedings as they were. But we'll see what Philadelphia can do tomorrow. Again, Carter Hart looked pretty good against Boston. He looks like he's dialed in. And for Washington, they'll be looking to bounce back from that shootout loss against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Next on the board, Vegas. The Vegas Golden Knights 1-0 after the comeback victory against Dallas, against St. Louis. St. Louis, of course, with that 10th of a second left loss against Nazem Kadri and the Colorado Avalanche, who are playing Dallas today. It'll be interesting because I thought St. Louis played well against Colorado. I did. Vegas, obviously, never gives up, and they do like their comebacks. This is a good test. So Vegas, a team that went to the Stanley Cup final 2 years ago. St. Louis won the Stanley Cup a year ago. It's a good test for Vegas and a good chance for them to show, hey, so we're getting a lot of bets that we're going to be the Stanley Cup champions, and they can try to justify that with a result over St. Louis. And again, for Vegas, with that one win, then all they have to do beat St. Louis, and then they're just left with Colorado, and they would get the number 1 seed. Potentially could play Chicago in round 1. Like, this is a big difference maker, being the number 1 seed rather than number 4, potentially anyways. Again, the teams that are playing the play-in rounds, it's going to be tough not to take them in the first round of the actual playoffs because they've been playing the intense hockey for a 9-day period, whereas the play-in teams haven't. And so we'll see. But Vegas has a way of turning a game pretty intense pretty quickly, as does St. Louis. So I anticipate a pretty good game there. Next up, Toronto in against Columbus. This one starts at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. Of course, this series is now tied at 1. Toronto played kind of the perfect game, and John Tortorella was not mincing any words about how he felt regarding his team when this game was done. Tortorella, I wouldn't bet against him having the guys ready for Game 3, but let's be honest. I mean, if it's man for man, Toronto is the more talented team when you look at the forwards. On the blue line, I know Cody Ceci takes a lot of blame, and I understand it, but I think that blue line isn't bad. I think we saw in game 2 that blue line can make some plays. I thought Dermott played well, Hall played well, and if they can get all 6 to buy in and work together as a unit, Toronto can absolutely win a Game 3 and then look towards maybe finishing it in 4, but they have to do it without Jake Muzzin. Jake Muzzin is now back in the bubble. No report on exactly what kind of shape he's in. I thought it was interesting too. So the Leafs tweeted out yesterday that he was in the hospital, and people right away were like, I thought you guys weren't going to tell us anything. And the league said, they didn't say what he was in the hospital with, just that he was in the hospital. And so he returns. He's not going to play at all the rest of the play-in round. I don't know what'll happen should Toronto beat Columbus, whether or not he's going to play in round 1. I'm thinking it's probably concussive and probably a concussion combined with a neck injury. I'm thinking that's from the look yesterday I saw, it's probably both. And so I'm just glad he's okay. I'm glad he's back in the bubble. He's back in the hotel. There won't be a suspension to Dubois. And hey, you know, I'm all for working on getting the cross-checking out. The first 40 minutes here between Florida and the Islanders, there have been plenty of cross-checks. And the announcers will even say, well, he gives him a cross-check here on this play, and then he sets this up, and it's like, okay, let's rewind a bit. Cross-checking has become problematic. Now, for people who want to say, well, we need to get that out of the game, it's tough. You need the NHLPA to really be on board with this. When we got hooking and holding out of the game in the mid-2000s, that took a long time. And honestly, it had to get to the point where it was really slowing the game down and making it almost unwatchable at times. So sadly, I feel like as many cross-checks as we see that aren't called, and that should have been a 2-minute penalty. Make no doubt about it. Dubois should have got a 2-minute penalty, but the actual fall itself that led to the freak injury. Keep in mind as well, Muzzin lands on the back of Bjorkstrand's leg. It was a miracle Bjorkstrand didn't hyperextend his knee there and end up being stretchered off as well. You have a guy land full force on the back of your leg. You're not anticipating it. You don't know he's there. You very honestly can get badly hurt. So Dubois, no suspension there. Muzzin's not going to play. And now it's up to the Leafs to go out there and play for Jake Muzzin. Say, all right, we're going to go out there and play for our fallen guy. And it looks like, from the reporting I've seen, Marincin goes in and Sandin may go in as well. So Marincin would be used for the defensive aspect, and Sandin probably getting power play time and for offensive zone situations. So that would mean they'd play with 11 forwards, which is problematic because so you have your 7 defensemen and your 11 forwards. It's problematic because then if a forward gets hurt tomorrow night, then you're looking at a situation where do you put one of the defensemen at forward? Do you take Ceci and go, you know what, Cody, we're going to put you on the wing for the rest of the game because we're down to 10 forwards and 7 defensemen, and that doesn't work. So there's some work to be done by Toronto. We'll see if they actually go the 7 defenseman route and how they deploy those defensemen. This is where Sheldon Keefe proves that he's the guy. So if you believe in Sheldon Keefe, have faith that he can figure out a way to make up for the loss of Jake Muzzin, and that the Leafs can rally around it. And last but not least, Calgary. Calgary can finish off Winnipeg tomorrow. This game starts at 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific, and of course, Calgary up 2-1. It has been a war of attrition, and Winnipeg, injury after injury after injury. It reminds me of Columbus before the pause. It reminds me of St. Louis at parts of the season. It reminds me of Pittsburgh, Colorado. It's a very fast game. It's a brutal game, and there's a lot of injuries that take place in hockey. And this is one of the reasons why when we saw this set up for the tournament, I said, well, at least everybody will be healthy to start. And, maybe we'll see a Stanley Cup champion that proves themselves in that they came into it healthy, and we don't see excuses of injury for teams being eliminated. And yet, if Winnipeg does go out tomorrow night, that argument can be made. That, the injuries right out of the gate in game one really cut him off at the knees. Laine and Scheifele being the major ones, and now there's others. So hopefully Winnipeg can gut one out and force a game 5. But Calgary, with the way they played yesterday and just how dominant they looked, it is tough to say that Winnipeg necessarily does that. Winnipeg won a game 2. They went and gutted one out. They need to do that again. They need to play that full 60 minutes. Because game 3 kind of went the way I had expected game 2 to go. So, yeah, I'm kind of expecting game 4 to go the same way as game 3. I'm hoping I'm wrong. So, we'll see what happens, and whether or not the game I'm watching now between the Islanders and Florida, whether or not Florida can force a game 4 as well. But, hey, we got 5 games tomorrow. Let me know your winners in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.